Valerie Chinese Imachapie. I'm the Outreach Resource Technician for Waksafi TP Library, and today we're going to cover copyright. Understanding copyright. Copyright owners have the exclusive right to copy, distribute, display, and perform their work. They are usually the creator of the material. They also have an exclusive right to create a work based on the original. Example is when a book is made into a movie. Copyright notice. This familiar symbol of a C surrounded by a circle indicates copyright, but it need not be present to protect a work. Understanding copyright protects the copyright holders and the information users. How Waksafi TP Library handles copyright. There is visible signage throughout the library, next to each computer, hanging on the wall by the copier, and within the LibGuide webpage. It states, Section 108 of the Copyright Law allows qualified libraries and archives to make limited numbers of photocopies for their patrons. Under certain conditions specified in the law, libraries and archives are authorized to furnish a photocopy or other reproduction. One of these specified conditions is that the photocopy or reproduction is not to be used for any purpose other than private study, scholarship, or research. If the user makes a request for or later uses a photocopy or reproduction for the purpose in excess of fair use, that user may be liable for copyright infringement. This institute reserves the right to refuse to accept a copying order if, in its judgment, fulfillment of the order would involve violation of copyright law. You may need permission when you are in print and electronic course packets, course post, internet post, interlibrary loans, research, class handouts, posting on websites, and posting in emails using copyrighted material. You may have to contact the creator of the article or the publisher of the book in order to use copies in your course. It depends on the fair use law and whether it will meet the requirements of the 4 factors of fair use, which will be covered more in depth. Copyrighted protected work. This can either be print, electronic, online, or any other format. Materials are protected for 70 years after the creator's death, 95 years after publishing, 120 years from creation, whichever is shortest. Work not copyrighted protected. Ideals. If you share an ideal with somebody else and you did not document this ideal, you have not copyrighted this ideal. Also not copyrighted are facts and data, logos. Need to be aware that they may be protected by the trademark law. Taglines are also not protected under copyright. However, they may be protected by the trademark law. Anything created by the U.S. government, and works that have moved into the public domain. Works that have moved into the public domain are no longer copyright protected. This means that anything that was created before 1924 is part of the public domain. January 1st is the public domain day, so the year will be adjusted at that time. For sale, this allows libraries and bookstores to work. It permits lending, reselling, and disposing. It does not permit reproducing materials, public displays, or performances. For example, when Waksafi TP Library did a book talk and movie showing of Neither Wolf Nor Dog, the library got a copy of the movie from the producers and works with South Dakota Humanities Council to show at the library, which then gave us permission to have a public display. Performances of readings of books have to get permission from the author or the copyright holder if it is shared on a public site such as YouTube. This is why the library schedules book talks and not book readings. Attribution. Attribution is giving credit to an author by citing or noting who is responsible for the information. Citing sources is good, but it is not a substitute for permission. Just because you found it in a book or on the internet does not mean the work is public domain. Public domain is where the works are no longer protected by copyright, or they never were. Fair use. The right under certain conditions to duplicate, distribute, and perform portions of copyrighted material without first obtaining permission. The question is, does fair use give instructors the right to share content without permission and paying royalties to copyright holders? The answer, even if it is for educational use, no particular use qualifies as fair use. You must first weigh all 4 factors to determine if it qualifies for fair use. The 4 factors to consider are the purpose and character of the use. Commercial versus educational. If it is for financial or business gain, it does not qualify for fair use. Also note that not all uses in an academic context automatically qualify for fair use. Second, the nature of the copyrighted work. Factual versus creative work. Factual is more likely to qualify than creative. Third, the amount and heart of the work taken. The greater the amount copied, the less likely it qualifies. And even if it is a small portion, if it is the heart of the work, it still may not qualify as fair use. 4, the effect of the use on the potential market. If your use might result in financial loss of the copyright holder, it does not qualify as fair use. Single copying for classroom use. Copying of copyrighted materials for student education and research usage without documented permission may happen in the following examples. In any of the examples shared, copies may be created by or for instructors at their request for educational research or use in instruction or preparation to teach a course. One chapter from a book, an article from a periodical, journal, or newspaper, a short story, short essay, or short poem, whether or not from a collective work, a chart, graph, diagram, drawing, cartoon, or picture from a book, periodical, or newspaper. Each copy includes a notice of copyright. An example is Copyright Law, Title 17, U.S. Code, may protect this material. This is informing the information user that the material may be copyrighted and for them to be aware. Multiple copying for classroom use. Copying of copyrighted materials for student education and research usage without documented permission may happen in the following examples. Instructors may create copies for student educational use or discussion as long as they meet the requirements below. Not to exceed more than 1 copy per student in a course. The requirements of brevity, either a complete article, story, or essay of fewer than 2,500 words, usually ranging from 3 to 8 pages depending on the size of the page and the font. Or an excerpt from any prose piece of not more than 1,000 words or 10% of the piece, whichever is greater. Whim, the copying is at the instructor's decision, inspiration, and reasoning to use the work. The point of time of its use for the most significant instructional impact is so close that it would be unreasonable to expect a timely response to a request for authorization of use. Cumulative effect, copying of the material is especially for one course in the school where the copies are made. Each copy includes a notice of copyright. An example is Copyright Law, Title 17, U.S. Code may protect this material. This informs the information users that the material may be copyrighted, and that makes them aware. Scenarios for printed materials. Ask yourself if these qualify for fair use. 1. An instructor copies an article from a publication to give to their class. Yes. Giving out multiple copies. Scenarios for printed materials. Ask yourself if these qualify for fair use. 1. An instructor copies an article from a publication to give to their class. Yes, this qualifies for fair use. Giving out multiple copies for classroom use qualifies. If the copies are used repeatedly from semester to semester, then it needs to be reassessed using the 4 factors to consider if it qualifies for fair use. 2. An instructor creates a course packet to give to his students that has copies of excerpts out of the journals and textbooks. No, this does not qualify for fair use. They would need permission for use of copyrighted materials. 3. An instructor has a public webpage that he posts his class notes on. He wants to scan an article and add it to his page. No, this does not qualify for fair use because it is accessible to the public. They can share a link to the source as an alternative. 4. An instructor posts an article on his course page which is only available to students. Yes, this qualifies for fair use because it is only available to the students on a password-protected site. 5. An instructor wants to use a textbook that his students do not have. He makes copies of the book for the class. No, this does not qualify for fair use. It meets the educational factor. However, it financially affects the copyright holder. 6. An instructor copies a Shakespeare play from a copyrighted anthology. Yes, this qualifies as a fair use because it is a public domain material. 7. A library has a book that is out of print and unavailable. The instructor needs the book for research and they want a copy of the book for their files. Yes, this qualifies for fair use because it is for personal use. It also meets factors. 1, it is for educational. 2, it is for research. 3, the book is out of print and no longer available, which meets the 4th factor of no impact on the market because it is no longer available. 8, an instructor wants to make a copy of material from the archives. Yes, this qualifies as fair use. They may copy and scan up to 10% of a published material. They can also request assistance for copies of unpublished materials. Fees are not typically charged to tribal members. Scenarios for CDs and DVDs. Ask yourself if these qualify for fair use. 1. An instructor wants to show a movie to her class as part of her instruction. Yes, this qualifies for fair use. It is for course instruction and no admission fees is required. Tuition and course fees do not count as admission fees. 2. An instructor wants to show a movie online in a closed group. Yes, this qualifies for fair use, as long as it is not a public access site and it is only available to the students. 3. An instructor makes a copy of the movie for another instructor to use at the same time. No, this does not qualify for fair use. The instructor may lend her personal copy of the movie, but not make a copy. 4. An instructor uses photographs in their presentation. Yes, this qualifies for fair use. The copyright fair use provision explicitly provides for course use. Instructors and students may perform and display their own educational projects and presentations. 5. An instructor wants to make a copy of a CD to use for instruction. No, this does not qualify for fair use. The CD is copyrighted material, and the instructor may borrow the CD but may not copy it. Why it matters. It's the law, it's ethical, and if it is not followed, it puts you and the entire institution at financial risk if a copyright holder decides to sue. By following copyright law, it ensures high-value materials will continue to be produced in the future. We expect others to respect our intellectual copyrights. Therefore, we should extend that respect to their intellectual copyright. Last but not least, we instill that value in our students. This is a list of further resources, which are also available on the Waksafi TB LibGuides webpage under the tab of Copyright. Thank you.